Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Maybe the reason you're not healed yet is because you've been trying to forget what needs to be gently remembered. Healing often feels like it should mean forgetting, as if the past will only have power over us when we remember it. Many of us chase this impossible kind of amnesia, believing that peace comes from erasing what hurt us. But the truth is, the wounds we've carried are not something to bury or avoid. They are something to acknowledge, to witness, and to understand. Avoiding memories doesn't make them disappear. It only gives them space to grow in silence, to whisper in the shadows of our minds until they affect how we live today. The first step toward real healing is awareness. Noticing the difference between remembering without fear and avoiding because we are afraid of the pain returning. It is the recognition that pain isn't inherently dangerous, and that the fear we feel when we recall it is not a signal to run, but an invitation to lean in gently. Often, the part of us that wants to forget is the same part that desperately needs to be heard. It is the voice that has carried our shame, our embarrassment, our grief, and our loneliness. By turning toward it, by naming it and giving it acknowledgement, we begin to dismantle its power. What we have buried alive continues to knock at our hearts, demanding attention, demanding that we recognize the story it carries. Instead of pretending it didn't happen or judging ourselves for feeling it, we can take a quiet, courageous step toward understanding. Healing begins when we allow the memory to exist without letting it control us, without letting it define who we are today. One small but powerful way to start is to write down the memory, not focusing on what it took from us, but what it taught us about ourselves, our courage, and our capacity to endure. In that act, we do not erase the past, we transform the meaning of it. We begin to see that remembering is not a weakness, but a form of strength, and that peace is not found in forgetting, but in understanding, accepting, and gently holding what once hurt us. Healing is not just about confronting the past, it is about allowing the truth to surface fully and without shame. So often, we live with edited versions of our stories, versions that are safe to tell and safe to believe, versions that protect us from the raw edges of our own experience. We hide details, we soften the words, we avoid emotions that feel too sharp, too unbearable, too revealing. And while this feels protective in the short term, it is quietly corrosive over time. The parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge quietly take root in our minds and bodies, shaping our thoughts, our reactions, and even our relationships. There is a difference between knowing your story and living it as it actually happened. The difference between hiding your truth and facing it, even when it is uncomfortable. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the willingness to let the truth of our experiences meet our attention without judgment. It is the quiet courage to sit with feelings that have been avoided for decades, to name them, and to let them exist without trying to fix or change them immediately. Many of us fear that if we let ourselves feel fully, if we allow the truth of our past to surface, we will be consumed by it. We fear that the memories we carry will define us, that the pain will swallow us whole, that the shame will become unbearable. But the paradox is that when we allow these emotions to rise, when we meet them with awareness and gentle attention, they lose the control they have over us. The power of shame, fear, and regret is in our resistance to them, in our attempts to hide from what is already part of us. Vulnerability is the key that unlocks this power because it shifts the way we relate to our own story. Instead of running from it, we sit with it. Instead of silencing it, we listen. And in that listening, we begin to understand what the experience has truly meant, how it has shaped us, and what we can carry forward without being weighed down. There is something profoundly transformative about speaking a truth you have held in silence for years. It could be aloud to another person in the quiet privacy of a journal, or even whispered to yourself in the mirror. The act of acknowledgement, saying the words, holding the memory without apology, without shame, changes its relationship to your mind and heart. It begins to shrink from something monstrous to something human, something understandable, something that does not define your worth. This is where the first real shift in healing occurs, when the memory stops being a shadow that controls you and starts becoming a story that informs you. It does not diminish the pain, but it gives the pain a place to exist that is safe, acknowledged, and contained. Fear often arises at this stage because the truth can be unpredictable. Memories we have avoided may trigger emotions that feel overwhelming, thoughts that feel unmanageable, or reactions we did not expect. This fear is natural. It is part of the process. But leaning into fear does not mean seeking it out recklessly. It means moving forward with intention, step by step, moment by moment. It is the quiet willingness to meet discomfort with curiosity rather than judgment. Asking yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Or, why does this memory still hold such power over me? Invites a dialogue with yourself that is gentle, honest, and transformative. The answers rarely come in grand revelations. They arrive in small shifts, subtle understandings, and quiet moments of recognition. Shame, perhaps more than any other emotion, thrives in secrecy. When we conceal the truth of our experiences, when we pretend things didn't happen or that we were not affected, shame whispers that we are defective, unworthy, or weak. Vulnerability is the antidote to shame because it removes secrecy from the equation. To be vulnerable is to allow a part of yourself that has been hidden to be seen. It does not mean exposing every detail to everyone. It means exposing it to yourself and to a space where it is safe to be received. This can be the most difficult part of the journey because vulnerability requires courage. It requires trusting that the world, or at least yourself, will not respond with ridicule or rejection. It requires believing that acknowledging your own truth is not an act of weakness, but a claim to your humanity. When we are willing to face our stories with honesty, we begin to recognize patterns that were previously invisible. We notice where fear shaped our decisions, where avoidance dictated our relationships, and where unspoken pain influenced our self-worth. This awareness does not arrive overnight. It is cultivated slowly, gently, like tending a garden that has long been untended. We allow ourselves to notice, to sit with, and to understand without rushing to change or fix anything. This is where transformation begins, not in erasing the past or rewriting it, but in observing it, in listening to it, and in honoring it. Healing through vulnerability also opens the door to empathy and self-compassion. When we meet our own pain with gentle attention, we begin to extend that same compassion outward. We realize that others carry stories that are just as raw, just as unacknowledged, just as human. This realization softens our judgments, reduces the weight of anger or resentment, and deepens our connections. The practice of vulnerability and healing is not solitary. It ripples outward into how we engage with others, the patience we extend, and the understanding we cultivate. Practical steps toward this kind of vulnerability are deceptively simple, yet profound in their effect. Start by identifying one memory or experience that has felt too heavy to face. Take a quiet moment and allow yourself to write about it fully, without censoring your words. Speak to the emotions it evokes, the fears it has generated, the lessons it might hold. Then take one small action to honor what you have uncovered. Share it with a trusted person, or acknowledge it silently to yourself, promising to meet it again with care. Over time, these small steps build a resilience and a clarity that cannot be achieved through avoidance. The memory remains, but it no longer carries the same charge of fear, shame, or secrecy. In this process, it becomes clear that healing is not about erasing the past or pretending it did not happen. It is about embracing the truth of your story and allowing it to be known without shame. It is about creating a space where your memories exist, not as tyrants, but as teachers. Vulnerability transforms the weight of the past into insight, courage, and self-understanding. When we stop hiding, we begin to live with authenticity, with depth, and with the freedom to carry our experiences without being carried by them. In embracing vulnerability, we claim our right to be fully human, to honor what we have endured, and to allow the story to shape us in ways that are meaningful rather than limiting. The journey is neither quick nor easy. It requires patience, persistence, and repeated acts of courage. But each time we allow the truth to surface, each time we acknowledge what has been hidden, each time we lean into the discomfort without judgment, we take another step toward freedom. The fear, shame, and self-doubt that once dominated our inner world begin to dissolve, replaced by clarity, empathy, and strength. Healing, in this sense, is not a destination but a practice, a commitment to meet life as it is, to face our past as it was, and to carry our truth as a source of wisdom rather than pain. In the quiet moments of reflection, when you sit with your story and allow it to breathe, you begin to understand something profound. The act of remembering with honesty is itself a form of liberation. The truth may be difficult, the emotions may be intense, but the freedom it offers is immeasurable. Each acknowledgement, each act of vulnerability is a declaration that you are willing to face life fully, to carry your experiences without hiding, and to move forward with authenticity. Healing through vulnerability is not about erasing the past. It is about meeting it with courage, learning from it with compassion, and allowing it to inform your present without dictating your future. Courage is not always loud or heroic. Often it is quiet, patient, and almost invisible, a steady presence in the moments when we are tempted to run from discomfort. True courage in healing is the willingness to stay with our pain, to allow ourselves to feel fully without numbing, avoiding, or pretending it doesn't exist. We fear pain, yes, and our minds naturally try to protect us by building walls, creating distractions, or rewriting our stories in safer, softer terms. But the very act of leaning into the discomfort, of sitting with the emotions that have been avoided for so long, is what begins to transform them. Pain, when witnessed and held with presence, loses its power to dominate our lives. It becomes something we carry with awareness rather than something that carries us. Many of us equate courage with action, achievement, or boldness in the world, but often the most courageous acts are internal. They are the moments when we allow ourselves to face a memory we have been running from, to feel a fear we have been suppressing, or to sit with a truth that has been too heavy to bear. There is a quiet strength in saying to ourselves, I will stay here, even though this hurts. There is power in resisting the urge to distract, to justify, or to escape, and instead simply to breathe into the discomfort and acknowledge it. It is not easy. The body instinctively wants to pull away from pain, and the mind naturally wants to soften the edges of reality. Courage requires us to stay present despite these instincts, and to trust that we are capable of holding our own emotional weight. Fear is a constant companion in this work, and it often masquerades as practical reasoning. If I feel this, I will break, we tell ourselves. If I remember this, I will be consumed. But fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to be attentive. It is an invitation to notice what is alive inside us, what has been waiting for recognition, and what will only be transformed if it is met with awareness and care. By acknowledging fear, by naming it and observing it without judgment, we gradually weaken its hold over us. We begin to understand that the intensity of our emotions does not mean we are incapable of enduring them, but that we are human, fully and beautifully human, with a nervous system wired to respond to danger, real and perceived. The act of staying present with pain also opens a door to self-compassion. When we allow ourselves to feel without immediately fixing, judging, or suppressing, we create a space where understanding can grow. This is not indulgence or weakness. It is an essential part of emotional resilience. When we stop telling ourselves that we shouldn't feel a certain way or that we must move on faster, we allow our inner world to breathe. We realize that pain does not need to be eradicated to be managed. It simply needs to be acknowledged and met with care. Over time, the nervous system learns that we can endure emotional intensity, that our hearts can expand to hold difficult feelings, and that presence itself is a form of healing. Courage in this context is also about observing patterns without judgment. When we face our pain, we begin to notice how it has influenced our choices, shaped our relationships, and affected our self-perception. We see where avoidance has dictated our actions, where fear has led us to compromise our needs, and where old wounds still subtly inform the way we engage with the world. These observations are not meant to create shame or self-criticism. They are meant to bring clarity. They are a form of gentle illumination that allows us to understand the interplay between past experiences and present behaviors. In recognizing these patterns, we reclaim agency over our lives. We begin to act with awareness rather than reaction, with intention rather than avoidance. Another essential aspect of courage is consistency. It is not a one-time act, but a repeated choice. Each time we choose to feel instead of flee, to stay instead of escape, we reinforce the strength of our emotional muscles. Courage grows not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, relentless willingness to show up for ourselves day after day, moment after moment. Even small acts, allowing a memory to surface, sitting with a feeling without numbing or acknowledging a difficult truth, are proof of our capacity to endure and transform our inner world. These incremental moments compound, building a resilience that becomes palpable over time. It is also important to recognize that staying present with pain does not mean being passive. Courage is active engagement with one's inner life. It means observing the emotions, understanding their origins, and gradually shaping the narrative that emerges from them. It requires curiosity, asking ourselves what this feeling is trying to teach us, what lesson it carries, and how it might guide us toward wiser, healthier choices. By engaging with our pain in this way, we turn it into a source of insight rather than a source of suffering. The very process of paying attention, of witnessing, of holding space for ourselves transforms the nature of the experience. Fear of being overwhelmed often leads to avoidance, yet the truth is that we are more capable than we think. Emotional resilience is built not by avoiding storms, but by learning to navigate them. Courage teaches us that we can sit with strong emotions without being consumed, that we can confront memories without being defined by them, and that we can allow ourselves to feel deeply without losing our sense of self. This does not diminish the reality of the pain, but it repositions our relationship to it, giving us choice where previously there was only reaction. Practical steps to cultivate this courage can be deceptively simple, yet deeply impactful. Start with small, intentional acts. Pause and notice a difficult emotion without trying to fix it immediately. Name it, breathe into it, and allow yourself to fully feel it for a few moments. Reflect on what it is communicating, what need, fear, or boundary it is pointing toward. Another step is to document your experience. Write down the emotion, the memory, and the patterns you notice. Over time, these acts become a practice, a ritual of courage, where you show up for yourself consistently and intentionally. Ultimately, staying present with pain is a gift to ourselves. It honors the complexity of our lives and our capacity to endure. It is an acknowledgement that suffering does not make us less. It makes us human. Courage allows us to transform our inner experience, to take the raw material of memory and emotion and turn it into wisdom, clarity, and strength. It teaches that freedom does not come from avoiding pain, but from meeting it head-on with presence, attention, and care. As we cultivate courage in this way, we begin to notice subtle changes in our daily lives. Emotions no longer dominate unconsciously. Memories lose their grip. Relationships are approached with more awareness and compassion. We are able to navigate the world not by pretending that nothing has affected us, but by embracing the truth of what we carry and allowing that truth to inform our choices in a conscious, empowering way. Each act of courage becomes a stepping stone toward deeper healing, greater clarity, and a life lived with authenticity and presence. Staying present with pain is never a single event. It is a series of conscious, repeated decisions to meet ourselves exactly where we are, to allow our hearts to hold what is difficult, and to trust in our capacity to endure. In doing so, we discover that courage is not the absence of fear or pain, but the commitment to remain awake, aware, and engaged, even when it is uncomfortable. It is in these quiet, deliberate moments that true transformation begins, and the relationship we have with our own pain shifts from one of domination to one of understanding, insight, and resilience. Healing is not complete until we begin to change our relationship with what once hurt us. For too long, many of us have allowed memories and experiences to live in the shadows, influencing our thoughts, decisions, and sense of self without our conscious awareness. Change does not mean forgetting or pretending the pain never existed. It means shifting how we carry it, how we allow it to interact with our present, and how we let it shape who we choose to become. The event itself may remain, the memory may linger, but the way it holds us hostage begins to dissolve as we actively rewrite the relationship we have with it. This process is neither linear nor simple. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to feel uncomfortable, to encounter old wounds with new eyes, and to confront the patterns that have kept us tethered to suffering. Many of us resist change because it feels like betrayal. Betrayal of the past, betrayal of the pain we endured, or even betrayal of ourselves. There is a voice inside that whispers, if you move on, you will forget. If you heal, you will diminish the importance of what happened. But true change does not erase significance. On the contrary, it honors it by allowing the experience to teach, guide, and inform us, rather than define us. The act of transforming our relationship with the past is an acknowledgement of our own strength and agency. We are not powerless observers of our memories. We are active participants in how they live in our hearts and minds. The process begins with recognition. We notice how certain memories trigger specific emotions, bodily sensations, or patterns of thought. Perhaps it is anger that surfaces unexpectedly, fear that quietly dictates choices, or sadness that seems to appear without warning. Awareness is the first step because we cannot change what we cannot see. Observing these patterns without judgment allows us to approach them with curiosity instead of resistance. Instead of asking, why am I still affected by this? We begin to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? How can I honor it while reclaiming my freedom? This subtle shift in questioning changes the way we engage with our inner world, transforming resistance into learning. Change also involves conscious choice. We have the ability to decide how we respond to memory, emotion, and experience. We can choose to carry pain unconsciously, letting it dictate our behaviors, relationships, and self-perception. Or we can choose to carry it with awareness, acknowledging its presence while asserting our agency. This does not minimize the weight of the experience, but it does alter its power. By actively choosing how to relate to the past, we reclaim control that we may have thought was lost. Each choice to engage with memory intentionally is a step toward freedom, a declaration that the past will not continue to dominate our present. This work also requires honesty. We must admit where avoidance has kept us stuck, where fear has dictated decisions, and where unresolved pain has limited our growth. Honesty can be uncomfortable because it forces us to confront truths we may have resisted for years, but it is only in honesty that meaningful change can occur. Without it, we risk rearranging surface behaviors while the inner story remains unchanged. By facing the truth of our experiences and their impact on us, we lay the foundation for transformation. We recognize the ways in which old wounds shaped our reactions and begin to consciously choose new ways of being that reflect insight rather than fear. Another important element of change is compassion. We are often harsh with ourselves for carrying pain for so long, for reacting imperfectly, for believing the stories we were told, or telling ourselves about worth, ability, and strength. Change requires that we meet ourselves with kindness, that we treat our past experiences as part of our humanity rather than as evidence of weakness. When we approach ourselves with compassion, we create the internal environment necessary for change. We stop punishing ourselves for what was endured and instead begin to understand, integrate, and learn from it. Compassion softens the edges of memory, allowing the past to exist without creating suffering in the present. Practical application of this work is both simple and profound. Begin by identifying a recurring thought, memory, or emotional trigger that has influenced your behavior. Observe it without judgment and write down how it manifests in your life. Then ask yourself, how could I relate differently to this memory? How could I carry it in a way that allows me to honor it without letting it dictate my choices? Experiment with small, intentional shifts in thought, behavior, or emotional response. Perhaps it is a conscious pause before reacting, a breath taken before responding, or a reframing of the narrative that has defined the experience for years. Each small change compounds, gradually transforming the weight of memory into insight, strength, and freedom. As we practice this, we begin to notice subtle but powerful effects. Emotional intensity softens, old wounds stop controlling behavior, and choices become less reactive and more conscious. The past no longer has to feel like a chain. It can become a source of clarity, a lens through which we understand resilience, empathy, and courage. The act of rewriting the relationship with our experiences is transformative because it allows us to inhabit our present fully without being tethered to suffering or fear. Change is not a single dramatic event. It is a process of continuous conscious effort. It is the repeated decision to face memory with awareness, to respond with intentionality rather than habit, and to integrate lessons without letting pain dominate. It is the gentle but persistent practice of reclaiming agency, creating space for reflection, and making choices that align with growth rather than avoidance. In this practice, the past is neither erased nor ignored. It is carried with clarity, wisdom, and power, informing a present that is free from domination by fear or pain. Ultimately, healing through change is about transformation rather than elimination. It is about taking the raw experiences of the past and reshaping how they influence our present and future. We begin to see that what once hurt us can now guide us, that memories can exist without controlling us, and that emotional freedom is possible when we actively engage with our inner lives. By changing the relationship with our past, we no longer merely survive. We begin to live fully with awareness, courage, and intention. The past remains, but it no longer dictates. Instead, it informs, teaches, and empowers. The beauty of this process is that it allows us to carry the depth of our experiences without being weighed down by them. We do not forget, and we do not pretend the past never occurred. Instead, we integrate it into our story in a way that enhances our understanding, strengthens our empathy, and cultivates resilience. The memories, once heavy and painful, become threads in a tapestry of growth and self-awareness. Each conscious choice to approach the past with awareness, honesty, and compassion brings freedom, clarity, and an ever-deepening sense of strength. Through this journey, we realize that change is not about controlling what happened or pretending it did not occur. It is about claiming our power to live differently in the present. It is about transforming the influence of memory from limitation to wisdom, from fear to clarity, and from pain to resilience. Each intentional shift, no matter how small, is a victory, a step toward a life where the past can exist without defining our present and future. Growth is the culmination of all the work we have done in awareness, vulnerability, courage, and change. It is not an endpoint, nor a single achievement, but a process, a continuous unfolding of understanding, wisdom, and resilience. The pain we once carried, the memories we once feared, the emotions we once avoided, all converge to become a source of insight rather than limitation. True growth comes when we allow ourselves to integrate what we have endured, not by erasing it or pretending it never happened, but by acknowledging it fully and choosing how it shapes us moving forward. We begin to understand that our experiences, even the most difficult ones, are not obstacles to our flourishing. They are the foundation of it. For many, the idea of growth is tied to achievement, success, or external validation. But the kind of growth we are exploring is internal, profound, and deeply human. It is the ability to carry life's challenges with a sense of self-worth and purpose, the capacity to face difficulty without being overwhelmed, and the freedom to feel fully without fear of breaking. It is the moment when we realize that we are not defined by our past, but enriched by it. Every scar, every wound, every moment of suffering becomes a marker of resilience, a reminder that we endured, that we survived, and that we are capable of transformation. Growth requires acceptance. We must accept that our past shaped us in ways both visible and invisible, that our reactions were often survival strategies, and that our pain was valid. Acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. It means recognizing reality without fighting it, allowing what has been to inform who we are today without keeping us tethered to fear, shame, or regret. Acceptance is the bridge between the old story and the new, the path that allows us to carry carry wisdom instead of wounds. It is a quiet, steady acknowledgement that the self we have become is worthy, capable, and whole, even amidst imperfections. Part of growth is also learning to respond rather than react. When we have faced our memories with awareness, allowed vulnerability to surface, and mustered courage to stay present with pain, we gain perspective. We recognize patterns, understand triggers, and see the ways in which our past influenced behaviors that may no longer serve us. This perspective allows us to choose how we respond in the present, to make decisions that reflect clarity rather than fear, and to engage with life intentionally rather than reactively. The space created by this clarity is transformative. It allows us to interact with the world and with ourselves from a place of wisdom, strength, and authenticity.